Hello everyone, Jai Bhim. My name is Asang Wankhede. I'm doing my PhD in law at the University of Oxford. I'm looking at caste and poverty in Indian reservations, and I expertise in anti-discrimination law, affirmative action, and the human rights of Dalits. I also work with the diaspora community, looking at how discrimination works and functions across globally. In this clip, I am going to discuss very briefly the recent judgment of Davinder Singh, which came out on 2nd or 1st of August, which made it permissible to subclassify the so-called scheduled caste groups or the Dalit groups in India. I'll give a quick overview of what the judgment is. The judgment 6:1. It was a 7-judge bench, constitution bench judgment, which was considering if the government of India and of course the state governments have the constitutional power to subclassify Dalits into more backward Dalits or scheduled castes and the advantaged scheduled castes. The Supreme Court ruled 6:1, 6 judges in favor of subclassification, that subclassification power resides with the respective central government and the state governments, with the necessary empirical data. The background of this entire judgment is these respective governments of Punjab and Andhra Pradesh in particular not relying on E.V. Chinnaiya judgment of 2006, which said that there cannot be any form of subclassification because scheduled castes are a homogeneous unit in themselves, as a group in themselves. The Supreme Court, in its 553 page odd judgment, made a lot of comments, and of course in this short video I cannot go through all of them, and there will be a larger video that will be published later on. But there are, as I see it, 2 or 3 major implications. The first implication is on the future of the scheduled caste populations, and the second implication is the political implication that will actually happen. I'll come to the first implication. The implication that we have to understand of this particular subclassification is that it is one of the major steps towards, in the larger scheme of things, towards erosion of reservations in India. What I study at the University of Oxford and analyze is that how reservations have been dismantled quite slowly, but quite progressively towards reading down those very central pillars of reservations. Creamy layer is another aspect of it. So first, through this subclassification, what will happen and what Supreme Court says is that there cannot be a caste-wise division within this, for example, 16%. What the Supreme Court says is that if the government comes up with particular data that 2 or 3 castes or these particular castes are lacking in representation in public employment and education, they might be given a preferential treatment to this particular quota. The problem that happens with this is that it first, without a doctrine, in legal doctrine that we say, without a legal doctrine of social forwardness, we cannot have an understanding of what constitutes an advantaged scheduled caste. What constitutes an advantaged scheduled caste, Supreme Court has not told us yet clearly. What Supreme Court has always been saying is to really pick up this topic or the principal doctrine of creamy layer from OBCs and then implement that OBC creamy layer concept to SC/STs, saying that creamy layer means socially forward Dalits. It has a lot of problems. I've written a whole article on this, of the fact that the experiences of untouchability that Dalits face is very different compared to the OBC's experience of caste, and therefore without having a strong understanding or doctrinal understanding of what amounts to social forwardness of Dalits, any steps towards subcategorization will naturally fail. Second issue with this judgment really is also, and the also implication of all of this is that all of this discussion is happening without any census level data. whatever citations that have been made in the Supreme Court judgment are very superficial in my humble opinion, and of course I respect the judgment, but are very weak. So the academic background of the judgment is very weak to say that there are advantaged Dalits and there are disadvantaged Dalits who are lacking behind. Now coming to the political implications, I also study upper castes and their appropriation of the reservation policy. I have done case studies, and the book that I published in 2022 with Routledge also analyzes how the politically affluent upper caste groups have actually appropriated the reservation policy. One thing that we have always seen is that reservation has been used as a tool for doing politics, and especially caste vote bank politics. What I see, and the implication of it in next few years, is that usually before you see this trend, major elections, you will see government, central and state government, trying to divide the scheduled caste into, of course, the most backward, more backward, and the less backward. And any particular pressure group or any particular subcaste group, if they find favors with the particular government, they may, of course, the government will have to produce the data, but the data collection exercise will also be politicized. And what I see is sub-fragmentation of Dalits and scheduled castes, and that level of politics taking place. Finally, on criminal aspect, there was no reason for the government, for the judiciary and the 4 judges which made comments on having criminal within scheduled castes, because there was no question of law involved in that particular case. I think this is only a step, because what has now happened is that there is a judicial argumentation towards, there's no binding precedent, but observation made in the judgment that there should be criminal applicable to the scheduled castes. And I see, at least in 5 to 10 years, this actually solidifying and what we call as crystallization into proper policy of applying criminal to scheduled caste people. So to conclude, I think this judgment has far-reaching implications on the reservation policy in India. In particular, its decay, as we can understand, so to speak. And I think is also, unfortunately, that significant of a judgment that will actually lead to the decline and eventually the destruction of reservations in India. Thank you, and Jai Bhim.